You've heard of co-working, now meet co-living. Hey there everyone, it's Jeff and this is Plain English, where you get to upgrade your English by listening to stories about current events and trending topics. And it's very rare that I make episode topics about myself or my own life. I do it now and then, but today's episode is about something that I have experienced personally. It's called co-living. I mentioned on previous episodes that I've been spending a few months in Chicago. In fact, this is the last episode I'll record here in Chicago. I lived here for many years, and I still consider it my home in the United States. But I live in Mexico City now. Anyway, I had to come back for a few months, and I needed a place to live. And I rented a room in a co-living building. Now, if you're not familiar with co-living, well, that's today's episode. This is episode number 763, so the transcripts, translations, exercises, and discussion area are all at plainenglish.com/763. Before we start today's story, I'd just like to remind you that the podcast is just one part of how we can help you upgrade your English skills. At plainenglish.com, you can make faster progress with active learning strategies. You can take quizzes, do activities, listen to the fast version of the audio, watch video workshops, practice what you learn, and even join a live call with JR and me. It's all about helping you build your skills to become a better, more confident English speaker. Sound good? Go to plainenglish.com to start your free 14-day trial today. Now, let's jump into today's story. You may have heard of a new type of office space, co-working. In a co-working office, individuals and small teams rent desks or small offices on a month-to-month basis instead of signing a long-term lease. The spaces are usually well designed. Individuals can rent a single desk, while small teams can rent a cluster of desks or offices. They usually include printers, coffee, and Wi-Fi. You might also get access to a receptionist or conference rooms, sometimes for a small extra fee. There is a social aspect too. Workers can spend their days around other freelancers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, where in theory, new ideas can blossom. The co-working businesses lean into the social aspect. They offer snacks, organize events, and sponsor happy hours, all to build a sense of community. Co-working offers advantages to individuals and small companies. A typical office lease requires a long-term commitment, usually 5 years or more. But co-working lets you pay by the month and cancel anytime. Then there's furniture and utilities to consider. Setting up an office is about more than just rent. And even if you get all that, it can seem depressing if you have just a few people coming into work. It's better to be around the energy of other like-minded people and let another company handle the basics like furniture, utilities, and dealing with landlords. Sounds good, right? Well, now take that same concept and apply it to your personal life. That's the idea behind co-living. Co-living is for apartments, the way co-working is for offices. In a co-living setup, people rent furnished rooms or sometimes entire small apartments inside a shared building. The leases can be for a full year, but they're often for smaller, flexible terms. For those who move from place to place, it can be hard to make friends and build a network. Co-living has the answer. These buildings offer generous common spaces like game rooms, party rooms, workspace, and cafes. They organize social events where residents can get to know one another. And the building designs are perfect for people who don't mind sharing space, being social, and connecting with others. Most co-living arrangements are mid to high-rise buildings with small apartments and shared bedrooms. But some are designed as large houses. One house might have 8 bedrooms, 2 kitchens, and a few shared living rooms that everyone can use. Residents of co-living don't like being tied down. They can move from place to place or city to city on short notice. And because co-living spaces are furnished, residents don't have to move heavy furniture or worry about connecting and disconnecting utilities every time they move. London today, Frankfurt tomorrow, Dallas, New York, or Tokyo next year. Co-living is also good for people who need flexibility for other reasons. If you're in a city for a temporary assignment or a medical residency, you might not want to invest money in furniture or sign a long-term lease if you know you'll have to move again soon. Co-living can also be a lifesaver for people moving internationally. If you need a place to live, but don't have a credit score or cosigner, not to mention a couch or a mattress, co-living can be a good way to get started. But the flexibility of co-living comes at a cost. Co-living spaces cost more, and sometimes much more, than an equivalent unfurnished apartment. These buildings are designed around shared spaces and community areas. That's great for extroverts, but introverts might not be comfortable with the limited privacy and small bedrooms. Co-living enjoyed a burst of popularity in the 2010s. WeWork, the big co-working chain, launched a co-living brand called We Live before the whole business went bankrupt. In America, a brand called Common billed itself as a roommate house with sleek designs and community events. The UK had The Collective, a lifestyle living brand for young creatives and professionals. Medici Living was popular in Germany. In Asia's huge and hugely expensive cities, co-living became a higher quality alternative to boarding houses and other shared arrangements. But the concept seems to have peaked in the 2010s. The concept never caught on quite like its promoters envisioned. It turns out that people like their own spaces, and co-living really only works for singles. So most people will age out of co-living spaces after a few years. Common, the biggest chain in the US, filed for bankruptcy in 2024. The Collective in the UK met a similar fate. Medici's American venture, Quarters, closed, and when I tried to check Medici's European website, it didn't even load. Co-living is more popular in Europe than in the US. Habit, based in Germany, is in 24 cities. Cohabs is popular in Belgium. In the US, there are still some co-living options, but they tend to be just single locations. One opened almost a year ago in Houston and is still only half full. The vision of creatives bouncing from place to place in vast networks of co-living, that just didn't pan out. I chose to talk about this topic because I've used co-living twice. Once when I moved internationally, and once when I was in a city for just a short time. My first experience with co-living was in Mexico. I had been working and living in Chicago, and I had almost definitely decided to move to Mexico City, but I'd only ever been to Mexico on vacation, so I wanted to live there for a month and just see what daily life felt like. The co-living space I chose was a large building, maybe 7 or 8 stories high, and had only studio apartments. So I had my own space. There was a co-working area in the lobby, a really nice roof garden, and some other common areas. And that worked out really well. It was cheaper than an Airbnb, but still flexible. The second time I did co-living was just recently. I had to go back to Chicago for just a few months, so I rented a bedroom in a shared co-living apartment. This obviously offered less privacy, but it was in a good location and I needed it quickly. And this was, overall, a good experience. I worked and spent some time in the common areas. My roommates were fine, but after almost 4 months of this, I missed the comfort of having my own space. Both times, co-living filled a specific and temporary need. It wasn't a long-term lifestyle, but it helped me when I needed it. And I guess that's probably why it never really caught on, right? It's not a long-term thing. I'm recording this on March 29th, and my last day in the co-living is on Monday. I'm really looking forward to getting back to my own apartment, my own furniture, kitchen equipment, all that stuff. I just never felt comfortable, falling asleep on the couch watching a movie when it was all a shared space. So this is why I left my roommate days behind a long time ago. All right, that's all for us here at Plain English. This was episode number 763, so you can get the full transcript, translations, and more at plainenglish.com/763. See you back here next week. Listen up if you speak Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, German, French, Italian, Japanese, Polish, or Turkish. One of the most frustrating things about listening and reading in a second language is being confused by unfamiliar words or phrases. When you listen to Plain English, or when you read the transcript, you probably encounter some words you don't know. When that happens, you have a few options. You can stop the audio, go look up the definition, then return to the episode, find your place, and press play again, but that's exhausting. Or you can just skip it and be confused. That's no fun either. But what if you could see the translation of the word into your language instantly without having to stop the audio, without having to look anything up? Well, you can at plainenglish.com. For each episode, we translate about 100 words and phrases from English to 9 languages: Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, German, French, Italian, Japanese, Polish, and Turkish. And we highlight those words in blue. All you have to do is hover your mouse over the highlighted word, and you'll see the translation instantly. It works great on mobile too. It really makes listening a lot more satisfying, and it's a great way to expand your vocabulary in English. The best way to see these translations is to sign up for a free 14-day trial at plainenglish.com. During your trial, you can read as many transcripts as you like, all with the translations into your language. So sign up for your free trial today at plainenglish.com.